Is it even possible to recover from a nearly fatal F1 accident and return in just over a month? Think about it. It's 1976. You crash as an F1 driver, and the accident is so brutal that not a single spectator expects you to be alive. This is the unbelievable real story of Niki Lauda, who defied all odds by surviving the deadly crash and shockingly returned to the track in only 42 days to race again. But how did he manage to survive such a horrible crash? Let's find out. When Niki Lauda took part in the 1976 season, he was actually the reigning Formula One world champion. The stakes were higher than ever as Lauda went head-to-head with his fierce rival, James Hunt, a talented British driver. With 5 impressive victories already under his belt that season, Lauda seemed unstoppable and was well on his way to securing back-to-back championships. But Formula One racing in the 1970s was terrifyingly dangerous. By then, 63 drivers had died in Grand Prix motor racing, and it was common for 1 or 2 drivers to lose their lives each season. Every time a driver got into their car, they were taking a huge risk with their lives. So here's what happened. A week before the 1976 German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring, Niki Lauda, who was known as one of the fastest drivers on that circuit, made an unexpected move. He called on his fellow drivers to boycott the race. Despite his dominating skills on the track, Lauda was deeply concerned about the safety of the 14-mile circuit, which was notorious for its challenges and dangers. He pointed out that the organizers didn't have enough fire marshals, proper safety equipment, or sufficient safety vehicles to handle such a massive course. Lauda wasn't the only one to point this out. American F1 driver Brett Lunger, who also took part in the 1976 German Grand Prix, shared his concerns in a 2016 interview. He said, "The circuits were not safe. That's undeniable now. In the 70s, the money was going into cars to make them go faster. The money was not going into safety, either in the car construction or the race circuit construction. And yet, in those days, that was the reality. We never even questioned it." So, how did the crash occur? The 1976 German Grand Prix started as normal, but it quickly turned into a tragic event. Lauda had changed his tires after the first lap and was trying hard to make up for the lost time. On the second lap of the race, near the fast left-hand turn before Bergwerk, Niki Lauda was involved in a terrible accident. His Ferrari suddenly swerved off the track while traveling at a speed of 120 miles per hour. The car hit an embankment, which caused its fuel tank to rupture and catch fire. The burning Ferrari spun back into the path of other cars. British driver Guy Edwards managed to avoid hitting it, but American drivers Brett Lunger in the Surtees Ford car made contact with the wreckage. Unlike Lunger, who escaped with no major injuries, Lauda was trapped in his car as flames covered it from all sides. Those watching the crash lost their hopes of Lauda coming out of it alive. The fiery crash looked impossible to get close to, and with Lauda stuck inside, every second felt longer and more painful. But in the middle of all the chaos, drivers Arturo Merzario, Brett Lunger, Guy Edwards, and Harold Ertl stopped their cars and ran to help Lauda. Even though it was dangerous, they rushed into the fire to save their fellow racer. Lunger, Edwards, and Ertl worked to control the situation, but it was Arturo Merzario who ultimately made the critical move. Fighting against the intense heat and toxic smoke, Merzario climbed into the burning wreckage. Lauda, who had already suffered severe burns on his head and hands, was unconscious. The toxic gases he inhaled had severely damaged his lungs and bloodstream, leaving little chance of survival. Merzario didn't give up, even though the situation was terrifying. He fought through the heat and smoke to unbuckle Lauda's seatbelt, which was harder because Lauda's body was leaning against it. And guess what? With unmatched determination, Merzario pulled Lauda out of the burning car, saving his life. Reflecting on the moment in an interview, Lauda expressed his disbelief at Merzario's heroism, describing it as unbelievable. Lauda recalled asking how Merzario accomplished the rescue, to which the Italian confessed he did not fully understand himself. The flames, smoke, and near impossibility of unbuckling the seatbelt should have stopped him, but something drove him forward. Merzario reportedly said, "When it was open, I got you out of the car like a feather." Another thing we'd like to discuss here is the helmet. Back then, Lauda was wearing a modified helmet that unfortunately did not fit him properly. The foam inside the helmet had been pressed down, which made the helmet slip off his head during the crash. This left his face exposed to the flames in a very dangerous way. Even though this happened, Lauda was awake right after the accident and even stood up. But soon, his condition got worse, and he fell into a coma. While he was in the hospital, his injuries were so bad that he was given the last rites. Lauda endured extensive burns to his head, which left him with permanent scarring. He suffered the loss of most of his right ear, the hair on the right side of his head, as well as his eyebrows and eyelids. Out of necessity, he underwent reconstructive surgery to restore the functionality of his eyelids, but he opted against any further cosmetic procedures. From that point on, Lauda always wore a cap to cover his scars, cleverly turning this into an opportunity to secure sponsorship deals by allowing companies to advertise on the cap. When Lauda was unable to continue competing, Ferrari brought in Carlos Reutemann as his replacement. During this period, Ferrari boycotted the Austrian Grand Prix, expressing their dissatisfaction with what they perceived as favoritism towards McLaren driver James Hunt during the Spanish and British Grand Prix. The corner where Lauda's accident occurred was later named Lauda Links.
My wife came into the room where I was lying, and she started crying. I told her afterwards, I said, listen, why did you cry when you come in? Because I felt bad. She said, unfortunately, I only recognized you on your feet because I was burned so bad in my head and everywhere that she had a shock. And so I thought, shit, I must fight now to stay alive. 5 weeks later, I was back in the car in Monza.
And now, here's the most daring act by Lauda, which no one was expecting at all. Just 6 weeks after the horrifying accident, he appeared at a Monza press conference with fresh burn wounds still bandaged. At the Italian Grand Prix, he courageously climbed back into his car, overcoming terror to finish an impressive 4th. Formula One journalist Nigel Roebuck described seeing Lauda in the pits as he removed blood-soaked bandages from his still-healing scalp. To endure the pain, he had to wear a specially modified crash helmet. 3-time world champion Jackie Stewart, who was doing racing commentary for the Italian Grand Prix, recalled Niki Lauda's determination in 1976. Speaking to the BBC in 2019, Stewart said he remembered Lauda putting on his helmet despite the pain he endured from his fresh injuries. When Lauda finished driving at the end of the race, Stewart was there to witness the horrifying sight of blood running down from beneath Lauda's helmet. This moment captured the immense suffering Lauda was willing to endure to get back behind the wheel. That same year, Lauda lost the 1976 World Championship title to his rival James Hunt by just 1 point. Despite leading in the standings ahead of the final race in Japan, Lauda decided to retire from the race after only 2 laps. Torrential rain made visibility nearly impossible, and Lauda, valuing his life over the championship, chose to prioritize safety. He came back stronger and won the World Championship title the very next year. Over the course of his career, Lauda won 25 Grand Prix races, earning a reputation as one of Formula One's most remarkable drivers. However, the injuries he sustained in the 1976 accident left a lasting impact on his health, contributing to complications that eventually required a double lung transplant in July 2018. When Lauda passed away at the age of 70 in May 2019, tributes poured in from across the world of motorsport. His former McLaren teammate, John Watson, reflected on Lauda's astounding return to racing just 42 days after his near-fatal crash. Watson described it as the most courageous act by any sportsman he had ever witnessed. Smash that like button if you found the video informative, and don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon so we know you're a true Formula One fan.